Is it truly possible to max out every single skill in spring? I'm talking about farming, mining, combat, fishing, and foraging. We tried this challenge a few weeks ago, but we didn't make it. We maxed out most of the skills, but foraging proved to be way harder than I anticipated. I learned a lot from that challenge. I'm going to take all I have learnt, all of the lovely comments people have given me over the past couple of weeks. I'm going to take all the feedback I got through Discord and I'm going to put it into this video. I'm going to show the Stardew Valley community just how powerful a Stardew Valley player you can become when you have the community on your side. Today's goal is simple. Obtain a foraging skill of 3 and repair the bridge so we can get access to the tide pools to get even more foraging items. Now in order for us to do this we need a lot of energy, so we're going to have to get some stuff from Gus here. I sowed my parsnip seeds. I wanted to get 3 salads, but unfortunately I wasn't lucky with the artifacts on the beach, so I could only afford 2 salads. For the final piece I just went with bread. It's better than nothing. We're going to need all of the energy that we can muster if we want to obtain over 300 pieces of wood to fix up that bridge, but also to cut down enough trees to obtain a foraging skill of 3. Why a foraging skill of 3 on day 1, you may ask? Well, it's quite simple. It's because it's the best I can do, and it's going to take my best every single day to max out all of these skills. Many day resets have been performed. Today, for example, this was the 5th attempt to try to get a foraging skill of 3 and to fix up the bridge before the time ran out. More times than not, I just ran out of energy and I couldn't do it, so I had to keep resetting the day until I got enough forageables that I could pick up off the ground that would allow me to cut down the amount of trees I needed to make this happen. Now you're also going to notice that I'm just cutting down the trees. I'm not cutting down the stumps, because it is a waste of energy. If I use the extra pieces of energy and time and go for those stumps, it's not possible. So I end up with basically a farm by day number 2 just filled up with tree stumps. Now we do have a lot of forageables because we got quite lucky with those. We also have some salads and we have a piece of bread as well, and every single one of those items will be used today. Now if you're asking yourself, why didn't you just keep the parsnips? You need to level up farming as well. We're going to go about farming very differently in spring, okay? We're not going to be getting strawberries. We're not going to be putting down tons of cane. We're basically not going to be looking in the direction of farming until much later on in the season. Now today almost broke me. And every day is like this. I set very hard goals for myself, but I set possible goals. I set goals that if you have a little bit of luck on your side and if you know what you're doing, you can achieve those goals. Almost every single day we're using min-max tactics, and all of these tactics have been developed and learned over the years of playing Stardew Valley. But you know what? The community deserves a lot of praise as well. There's a lot of people out there that don't upload Stardew Valley videos, and the knowledge they have when it comes to playing this game is absolutely insane. Now I end up just cutting down the very last tree today before it hits 2 o'clock to get a foraging skill of 3. I mean, talk about close. But we fixed up the bridge as well, so I was happy. Level 1, Level 2 and Level 3 foraging. The cookout kit is something that's very important as well. We'll be using that later to get ourselves a nice early legend fish. I'm at 170 gold by selling a few bits and bobs. The next day starts with the creation of a chest. We're also going to make a field snack. Energy is still extremely important. Now, before we get down to it, we're going to check all the trash cans. Sometimes you get some really nice things out of these. They're always worth checking out. I spotted a forager over by Merlewis' house, but we'll get that later. So today was attempt number 6. That's right, 6 attempts if you can believe it. Reason being, I just wasn't getting the fiberglass rod before Woody closed, and to be honest with you, I was not continuing this challenge until I got the fiberglass rod. Eventually, luck was on my side. I managed to chain up a lot of perfect catches. I was able to get my fishing skill to do, and I was also able to get enough fish together to buy the fiberglass rod off Woody. So we got there eventually. Sometimes I can do it on the first attempt, but you know, a lot of it's down to RNG as well. A lot of it comes down to, you know, how hard the fish is going to be when it comes to getting perfect catches. But it was worth it. And at the end of this challenge, hopefully we'll be able to max out all of the skills. Now we did find an artifact today. That was very important, because we can give that to Gunther, and for the first one given in, you get 250 gold. And that 250 gold, it goes a very long way, because it closes the gap that you need to get that fiberglass rod, because the fiberglass rod costs 1800 gold. Now I had 1200 gold on me at the moment. I'm going to go to Clint here. I was lucky enough to get 2 rubies inside of a treasure chest. That put me up to 1700. I'm going to purchase 1 copper ore so that Clint gives me the manual to make the forge the next day, because another goal is to have the copper pickaxe by day number 5. So all of these goals that I'm setting require day resets until RNG decides to just, come on over to the Gamergar side and just work with me. Now once I got the fiberglass rod off Willie, it was shut up to the lake. The reason why we're going up to the lake is because I find that it's way easier to get perfect catches up here than it is to get perfect catches down in the beach, especially with the carps. It's a nice solid 33 XP every time I pull one up. Now, I was lucky enough to get bubbles today as well, and those bubbles almost got me a fishing skill of 5 on day number 2, but we just didn't get there. But you know what? I took the fishing skill of 4, was very happy with that, and it won't take me too long to get fishing level 5 the next day. So Clint pays me a visit on day number 3, and he gives me the recipe on how to make the furnace. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to start mining up some stone here. We need, I think, 20 or 25 pieces, along with some copper ores to make the furnace. So we need to get that furnace made today. We also need to smelt up a total of 5 copper bars. So it took 4 resets before I could get this right. The geodes I got were extremely helpful, and we get very lucky with the geodes as well. Now Clint doesn't open till 9 o'clock, so we're going to swing up here, pick up a few forageables along the way. These will help us, of course, because we're going to eat those for more energy. We can also sell them, actually, if we want to get money. We have a chest filled up with fish that we got the previous day. We're not going to sell any fish until we get a fishing skill of 5, because otherwise we're just losing out on money, and we don't really need to buy anything right now. It would be nice to get the backpack, but the backpack can wait. We have chests after all. We're going to go to Willie, and we're going to sell him all the fish before we go to Clint. We have 2200 gold for selling the fish we caught yesterday. I was going to keep the fish until fishing level 5, but I needed the money, and of course, the pickaxe upgrade takes absolute priority. I got Clint to break open 3 geodes here. The 3rd geode, I was very fortunate. I got 10 copper ores from it. This made the rest of the day possible, because that was 10 less copper ores I had to buy from Clint to ensure I was going to get 5 copper bars to get the tool upgraded. So the first thing I was going to do was buy 4 copper ores to put me to a total of 25 copper ores. That combined with the stone allowed me to craft up the furnace. Now I needed a total of 25 copper ores to get 5 copper bars to give to Clint. So it was back into his shop, and I purchased the rest of the copper ores that I needed. Once I had all of the copper ores purchased from Clint, I had 555 gold. What I needed right now, before Clint closed, was 2000 gold for the first tool upgrade. So we headed over to the tide pool area with our fingers crossed that we'd get some good forageables. We picked up a few pieces. We're now going to do some fishing and smelting at the same time right beside Willie's house, because once my inventory filled up with fish, I would just run into Willie, sell him to fish and get some money. I got into Clint just before 4 o'clock, and this is where most of the failures came from day 3. We just couldn't get the Clint on time. It's such a pain he closes at 4 and not 5. If he closed at 5, it would have been grand, but the 4 o'clock was, it was tough. We're doing fishing up in the lake for the rest of the day. Now, the first skill we do get to 10, believe it or not, it's fishing. But the reason why we're doing so much fishing is because it's a great way to make money as well, and we need lots of money to get lots of tools upgraded, to get the backpack upgrades, other bits and pieces as well. We also need to unlock the desert. So level 6 fishing awards us with the bait maker. If we can get an early sea urchin, we will absolutely make that. It will speed up progression quite a lot. The next day starts with the collection of forageables in the bus stop area. Once we're finished with the forageables, we're going to head on into Pelican Town. We're going to search the trash cans as we normally do. We search the trash cans every single day. We're making our way down to Willie, but first we're going to pick up that daffodil beside Merluza's house. We're going to do lots of fishing this morning. We're going to sell all of the fish to Willie because we need to get the gold back up. What we have now is 3079 gold. Once we're done with this, we're going to go and process geodes here. And I'm hoping to get something really nice out of these geodes. I was really hoping for iron ores, copper ores, and coal. Just to make, the smelting of bars, especially in the early game, a little bit easier. Any sort of minerals or artifacts I got from those geodes were going to be sold for money. Gunther wasn't going to see a thing in spring because it's a spring challenge. We want to max out the skills. We're not looking at, making progression for perfection or anything like that. I wanted to make a recycling machine and I had most of the iron ores I needed. I just needed one more iron ore to make an iron bar and then I could make the recycling machine. I made that because I had a good bit of trash from all the fishing I was doing, and it would just be better to put that trash to some use rather than just have it rot inside a chest. I'm going to buy some potato seeds off beer today. I need those to make dish up the seeds later on. So we're going to plant the potatoes. We're going to water these up. Once we're finished with the potatoes, you can probably guess what we're going to do for the rest of the day. We're going to do more fishing. Now I got a book of power here called the Jewels of the Sea. It's nice to get that early. It means you have a chance to get raw from the fish you just pulled up inside a fishing treasure chest. So there's always a chance if we take on the legend, for example, and a chest pops up, we could get legend raw. And legend raw sells for an awful lot of money. Now we ended up getting more luck today. We got another Jewels of the Sea. If we activate this one, we'll actually get 100 experience towards fishing. It's not as good as the bait and bobber skill book, which gives 250 XP, but you know what? I would take all the XP the lovely RNG of this game gives me, and 100 XP is nothing to snuff at. Now, the best luck we got today was a ruby ring, increased attack power by 10%, but look what else we got. We got a broken trident. Now, to be fair, we were not going to go on to day number 5 without either a broken trident or a Neptune's glaive or some sort of powerful weapon. I wasn't going into the mines with a rusty sword. I know you can get the insect head, you know, early on, but because this challenge was going to require critical time saving skills every single day, it just wasn't worth pushing for the rest of this summer. It was still early days. I had no problem resetting day 4 until I got the broken trident. Luckily enough, I got it on my first attempt, so we went on into day number 5. We made lots of money today. Lots of bullheads, chubs, largemouth basses, carps, and other bits and bobs were sold. So I made lots of money from those. If we take a look at the mining tree, yes, I'm selling jades, I'm selling rubies. Please don't give out to me. We don't need them. Skull Caverns is still a way off. If you notice a dinosaur egg, I did get that from a fishing treasure chest. I just wasn't recording at the time. So yeah, we got a dinosaur egg. But again, we're selling it. This isn't all about perfection. You know, we're not going to have a dinosaur farm. We're just going to literally sell everything except fibre and stone, because we will need to make 3 fertilizers later on. Everything else is up for debate. It's up for selling. So I made the recycling machine today. We're going to recycle all of the trash that we have accumulated. Now, every few days I do spend a bit of time clearing all the debris on the farm, because eventually there's going to come a time when we need to plant a lot of crops and we need to have most of the stone and wood gone from our farm. So every few days we do take a few in-game hours and we do start cutting down some trees and mining away some stones. We're now going into the mines, and I was going to just not do the mines and focus on getting my fishing to level 10. That would be a mistake, and I learnt my lessons from the last challenge. We need to prioritise the mines for now because we want to get into the desert festival, which happens on the 15th, so I had 10 days to achieve the minimum requirement for the decent Skull Cavern run, and that was the space boots for the fence. We also wanted a mining skill of 6 so we could make bombs, and I wanted a combat skill of 5. The combat wasn't super important, but a level of 5 activates the first perk, which increases our attack power, and that means quite a few less swings to wipe out enemies. We're not going to get the Skull Key because that makes enemies stronger, and you don't need the Skull Key to get into the Skull Cavern on the 3 days that the festival is active. So we needed to make enough money and unlock those skills before the 15th. That was the big challenge, and if we can achieve that, we're off to a really good start. Now we're getting some skill ups today, which is nice, and a lot of the level 1 skill ups give very important items that we need to make life a little bit easier. Once we get a skill up on combat, we can learn to make the bug steak, and that comes in clutch more times than not. If we see copper ores, we will get them for now because we also want to upgrade our axe, and the axe will be upgraded all the way to an iridium axe in this challenge, so it only takes a very small handful of swings to wipe out the trees. Now I picked up a wood club on floor number 9. That is a very powerful weapon, but it paled in comparison to that of the broken trident. The broken trident isn't great at wiping out multiple enemies in one go because it's basically a dagger type weapon, but the DPS, damage per second, on this weapon is absolutely amazing. When I got down to floor number 10, I picked up the leather boots. That's the first of many booties we're going to get on this skills challenge. Every couple of floors we will go up and smelt some bars before we go back down again to get some mine progression. I have to say the broken trident was just a fun weapon to use, and eventually I do get more proficient at using it myself. I do get much better. Floor 13 was an absolute godsend. The floor was infested, but the duggies, you see, they give 10 XP when you beat one, and there was tons of doggies on this floor. Not only that, but sometimes doggies will drop cherry bombs, and I wasn't complaining. Cherry bombs are absolutely great, especially when you have clusters of ores and you don't want to use up your energy, or you don't want to use up chunks of time mining them open if you don't have the greatest pickaxe in the world. So cherry bombs are something that we want to accumulate much earlier rather than later. Those bug flies, they also give 10 combat XP when you kill one, but you know, even the bugs that just give 1 XP, the bugs you can one shot, they're still valuable because they're dropping bug meat, and we can turn the bug meat into bait. We can also turn it into bug steak, so there's multiple uses for the bug meat. Now, we managed to get some fairly good jobs today as well. The magnet ring will come in very handy. It just means we don't have to backstep more times than not to pick up items. We can just keep running along and the items will follow after us. Now, those grubs are still quite valuable. I was actually thinking of just injuring the grubs and wait until they all transform into flies, but sometimes the trident would just kind of kill him in one hit, so that wasn't happening. But to be fair, I was more interested in getting down to the later floors rather than farming the starter floors. So the sooner we can get at the gold ores, the sooner we can start fighting the void spirits, the sooner we can start to see some pretty good gains when it comes to skilling up mining and combat. Because before we get into Scout Caverns, I suppose the best place to go to get skill ups in those areas are the lower versions of the mines. So we're now on floor 21, and it's still day number 5. We're making fairly good progress. Now, I have done really good day 5s before. I think one of the best runs I ever did was get down into the 40s on day 5. We didn't do that today, we got very close to 30, but I didn't mind too much because I still make good progress and I have a very good weapon and I have a copper pickaxe. The next day starts with the clearing of more debris on the farm. Once a lot of the debris has been cleared, we're going to pick up that copper bar. What we want to do today is we want to hand in our axe to Clint, and we want to get that upgraded to a copper axe. And we want to get that done now a lot sooner than later because there's only a handful of days in spring, 28 in total. It takes Clint 3 days in total, but if you give him the tool on the first day and then you chain upgrade it when he has it finished, you're basically just waiting 2 days, you know, for the upgrades to take place. So 2,000 gold, 5 copper bars for the first upgrade there for the axe. The next upgrade will cost 5,000, then 10, and then 25. But as the days progress, we will be getting our hands on more resources, so money will start to come much easier. I was absolutely loving these infested floors. It just meant more combat XP for me. I know the grubs don't give a whole lot, but there was a chance they would drop bug meat up on the feet, and I was all about bug steak right now. Because we're making progress so quickly, and because we're heavily relying on energy, the bug steak is something that we use a lot so we can keep up our energy levels. We're also destroying almost every single barrel and crate that we see in the hopes that cave carrots or something nicer might pop out so we can keep the energy threshold high. We're just got another skill up there with mining now. That's level 2 mining. We can now make staircases, and staircases are something that we absolutely use in spring. The trident was still doing really well against most of the enemies we were encountering. It was absolutely devastating the bats. It was wiping out the golems. And because RNG was on our side, it didn't take us that long to get down through the dark floors before we made it into the middle levels to start accumulating iron ores. Now once we got to the middle tier, it was time to put the broken trident to the test. How effective would it be against the frost limes? And as we can see, quite effective indeed. The enemies didn't stand a chance against this broken trident. Now eventually we will swap out the broken trident. We will be going for the obsidian edge because the base attack is higher, and the obsidian edge can strike multiple enemies at once. It also has the parry skill, which comes in very handy against serpents, especially if they swarm you. Now, I wasn't in a huge panic right now to get down into the floor 80s. I was enjoying the broken trident, I was getting lots of iron ores, I was getting coal from the dust sprites, and we really want to have at least 50 or 60 bombs going into the Skull Caverns on the 15th when the Desert Festival opens, so this is something that needs to be prioritised. Now if we do get a staircase, we do obviously pop down, but I wasn't going to punish myself if I didn't make huge progress today. As long as I had the desert unlocked and all of the necessary skills acquired before the Desert Festival, I was happy with that. When I picked up the lead rod, I did consider using it because it is a magnificent weapon to get, especially when you're halfway through the mines. So I swapped it out for a little bit. I started using the lead rod. I quickly swapped back to the trident because the weapon is just that powerful. When I made it down to floor 50, I picked up the Tundra boots, which was nice, so we're going to equip those straight away. Now, it was still not super late, 9:50 going on 10 o'clock, So we're going to take this time and we're going to stay in the mines. Now I had to be careful because I had almost 10,000 gold on me. We do not want to pass out because we don't want to get fined for the 1,000 gold. Even though we had lots of money, we needed that money. We needed it for tool upgrades. We needed it for backpack upgrades and for other bits and bobs as well. Getting that diamond on floor 53 though was very, very satisfying. And it did bring our mining skill up into the next level. Not only that, but I can sell that diamond for 750 gold. Don't worry too much about the diamonds and the rubies for now. We will get more. We will have enough to do a very decent skull cavern run. So we will be getting our triple shot espressos and our spicy eels, but it was still early days, so it just made sense to sell all these things now and accumulate them later. We got lots of skill ups today and we made lots of progression in the mines. I was fairly happy with progress right now. I also made 2,800 gold primarily from stuff I just found in the mines. The next day we start on floor 55 and we just got another skill up there with combat. So that was a combat skill of 3, just 2 more levels to go now, and I'll be fairly happy with the progress that we're making. It's also the 7th, so we're just finished our first week of the challenge, and I have to say, I think we're doing pretty well. We have a high skill in fishing. We're also coming along very nicely in combat and mining, and on floor 59 we picked up yet another diamond, which was absolutely fantastic. Look, the first couple of skill ups don't require huge amounts of XP, it's just the last few skills that do, especially the final one. You need 5,000 XP of that skill type. So it's actually quite easy to kind of get the first 5 levels in most of the skills. So when you come across diamonds like that much early on in the game, it really, really helps. When you come across those mystery nodes, it's always worth to break them open. You never know what you might get, and you always get the XP based on the mineral that pops out. So if we got a diamond, for example, that would have been 150 mining XP. When we got down into the floor 60s, we picked up the crystal dagger, and the weapon just does not compare to that of the broken trident. Trident is longer, hits way harder. Because we've done so much fishing over the first week of the challenge, we have actually accumulated quite a lot of chubs. And I don't sell all of the chubs, I do keep some, and if I'm struggling really bad, there's nothing stopping me from just going out and fishing up a few more if I need to get the energy. But chubs are probably one of the best fish you can get in spring that give you energy. And that's why it's always good to keep a few chubs on you, just in case. We finally got into the 70s here and we're fighting skeletons. Now these skeletons have a chance to drop the bone sword. And if we didn't get a powerful weapon at the start, and if we didn't get the insect head, this would be the next place you'd be hoping for a good weapon drop. Because the bone sword is on par with the obsidian edge. Its base damage is a little bit smaller, but it's a very fast weapon. So I think when it comes to the bone sword and the obsidian edge, the bone sword probably has a little bit more DPS because of the +4 speed that it gets. I was considering swapping out the broken trident with the bone sword, but I said no, because the trident is just so fast and its base attack power is so high, it's just very hard to get a weapon that can beat it. Especially in the early game. When you get to the mid game, the late game, sure, there's tons of weapons that can beat it, but for now, it's a very good weapon. We got to floor 80, we picked up the Firewalker boots. I was very happy with this because it was only the 7th and I now had access to Void Spirits and Gold Ore, along with the bats down here as well, because the bats down here have a much better chance of dropping bombs and other bits and pieces. We're also getting more combat XP for fighting stuff down here as well. So every time we break open a gold node, we're getting 18 mining XP. If we find the gold nodes in little clumps or clusters, we're going to get a lot more, especially if we drop a bomb, you know. There's also a chance a mushroom floor might spawn. You have a chance of getting it between floor 80 and by the time we get down to floor 20. And it's something that you can get every single day when you come in here. And a mushroom floor is basically a floor that has tons of purple and red mushrooms. If we get that, it will be a godsend because we can sell the red mushrooms, keep the purple mushrooms. They're absolutely amazing for health and energy, but also we're getting valuable foraging XP every time we pull those mushrooms up from the ground. Now on floor 85 we got very lucky. We got a diamond from a mystery node along with a staircase that brought us right down to floor 86. The broken trident is still doing very well against the enemies here at the bottoms of the regular mines. The void spirits don't stand a chance. Even the red slimes with all of their HP don't stand a chance against the broken trident. Once we get down a few more levels we will reach floor 90. Now it was 12 o'clock, I was thinking about running back home. I had 12,000 gold on me, so I had to make a choice and I had to make it very quickly. I do not want it to get to 1 or kind of half 1 because then I might not make it home. I got to floor 89, I decided, you know what, we're very close to floor 90 for the sake of time, for the sake of progress. we will potentially sacrifice 1,000 gold just to get that checkpoint. Now, when I was on floor 89, there was a red slime there, and I fought it, and I got very lucky that when the slime was defeated, it dropped a staircase. I went straight down to floor 90, picked up the obsidian edge. It was 1 o'clock, and that meant I had enough time to go home and not get the penalty of losing up to 1,000 gold. We got lots of skill ups today in mining and combat. I also had time to sell some of my stuff. I got in the mines, I'm at 4,200 gold. A lot of that came from the diamonds, the jades, frozen tears, rubies, topazes, aquamarines. Demetrius visited us the next day. We're going to take the mushrooms. Reason being, we can harvest the mushrooms every 2 days, and those mushrooms will give us foraging XP. It's also worth keeping the mushrooms and drying them out to get a much better mushroom that gives more health and energy, because the mushroom cave comes with a free dehydrator. I would only ever take the bat cave if I was doing the community centre route and I wasn't investing in fruit trees early on in the challenge. Now, before I hand in my pickaxe to Clint, I did take the time today to clear some more debris on the farm, so I ran around and I started mining up tons of rocks here, because sooner rather than later we're going to have to literally plant thousands of crops on this farm in the hopes to max out farming by the end of the season. So we're now going to go to Clint, get our copper axe. We have 16,000 gold and we have lots of bars on us. We're now going to upgrade our pickaxe to a steel, and I'm doing this now so when the desert festival comes we'll have our steel pickaxe. Because we don't have the pickaxe anymore, we're staying away from the mines. And we're going to do some fishing, we're going to do some foraging. I came across some bubbles here just up from the Georgia Mart, so we used the bubbles to our advantage and we kept fishing here until the bubbles disappeared. We also attained a fishing skill of 8, which was really nice. There's 2 more levels to go. Because we had the copper axe, we could now cut tree stumps, just the regular ones, not the big ones. But it was enough to get our hands on a prized ticket. Now the first prize is always going to be one of the new kind of seasonal crops, so we're going to get the carrots. If I managed to get a second prize ticket, I could have got a sapling there and I would have sold that to get some money for it. Because I had over 10,000 gold, I went ahead and purchased the final backpack upgrade. That was another key item we needed for the desert festival. So we're selling some stuff here to Pierre. We have 2,000 gold. We're going to go to Willie, we're going to sell him a few pieces of fish that we caught to bring us up to 2,800 gold. Then we're going to go to the tide pools and we're going to get all of the forageables here. All of these forageables will be sold. Then we're going to head up to the lake and we are going to spend the rest of the day just pulling up an unmerciful amount of fish. We get level 8 fishing today, and we made a fair bit of money now today in all fairness. We made a total of 5,338 gold. Let's break it down. So when it comes to fishing, we just had lots of carps, chubs, bullheads, a few largemouth basses, not a whole lot though, and other bits and bobs. For other, we had some geodes, magma geodes. I decided to just sell those instead of getting Clint to process them. The next day started with me hoeing up the ground to get a chicken statue which will be sold. Hoeing up stuff is so important because you get 15 foraging XP every time you hoe the ground. I checked the mushroom cave, but the mushrooms aren't ready just yet, so I should be getting the mushrooms tomorrow. I got more hoeing spots just north of the farm, so that was very nice as well. And then we headed back up to the lake area to our favourite fishing area, and we're going to spend the rest of the day pulling up huge amounts of fish. Now tomorrow is going to be a rainy day, and the potatoes should be ready tomorrow as well. That means we can go fight the legend tomorrow. If we don't end up getting the legend on day 10, we will reset the day until we get the legend. So that was a critical goal that I wanted by day 10. I wanted the legend. And if I had to reset the day 50 or 100 times, I would do so. But you know, look, that's just the way it went. If you want to max out or attempt to max out all your skills in spring, you have to get into the habit of resetting days if you don't get the desired results. So when it comes to doing this challenge, it was all about setting short-term goals over and over again. What could be achieved, what you had to do to achieve it, how much time you needed, how much resources you needed. I went to Pierre just before he closed to get some oil. I went to Gus and I got the recipe for the hash browns because we need those to make the dish of the sea. I then went down to the beach and I did more fishing down here to get some sardines. We also need sardines to make dish of the sea as well. And while I was down here, I decided to go all out and get lots of fishies down here. Level 9 fishing, which was very nice indeed. We made a lot of money today now. We made a total of 7,147 gold. Primarily, most of that came from the fish. we made over 5,700 gold with the fishies. The rest of it just came from minerals and other stuff we put up in the fishing treasures. So today was a grand total of 5 resets. That's right. Some days the legend just would not appear, other days the legend would appear, but it was, I don't know, it was just very difficult to catch, despite the fact that I've just done a fishing challenge and I was pulling up legends like there was no tomorrow. So we went into the mushroom cave, picked up all of our lovely mushrooms, got our potatoes, met our dish up to seas, went down to Willie's, did some fishing before Willie opened up. Once Willie was open, we went inside, sold all of the things that we didn't need, so we sold some raw, car, clamps, we also sold the dress spinner as well. It's now time to get some upgraded fishing gear. We're going to get the iridium rod for 7,500. We're also going to get some trap bobbers as well, just to make the legend a little bit easier to get. I also sold the chubs because why not, it's more money for me. So I took a dish off the sea and now it was time to face off against the legend, and after a good couple of resets, I managed to get this legend without too much hassle at all. And once this legend was caught, we didn't have a skill of 10, so we weren't going to sell the legend straight away. We're going to keep it, and we're going to sell it once we get that extra fishing skill, because when you get fishing skill of 10, you can get a buff that increases the fish prices by 50%, which is pretty significant. For the rest of the day, we're just going to do more fishing. We're going to run down to Clint as well actually and get our steel pickaxe. Once we've got the steel pickaxe, we're going to hand in our axe and upgrade that to a steel axe, because even though it's the 10th and there's still a good bit of time left in spring, you want to be getting that axe upgraded as early as possible. I sold all of the fish to Willie except the legend. We're now going to go to Morris. We're going to pay 5,000 gold to get the Georgia membership. We need to get the membership so we can access the Georgia development projects. The first project we're going to unlock, or hopefully we can unlock by the 14th, will be the bus. I picked up a bait and bobber skill book from one of the fishing treasure chests. This was quite significant as this gives me a fishing XP of 250. We were now very close to getting a fishing skill of 10. I was hopeful that I would get fishing level 10 tonight, but it was not meant to be. If I got some extra bubbles, I probably would have done it, but look, the RNG just wasn't there, and I was happy enough with progress to not reset the day. Not at all. Not after what we achieved. So I made over 2,200 gold. I sold a load of stuff. And the next day we should be able to get a fishing skill of 10. We're still selling rubies by the way, but eventually that's going to stop and we're going to start saving the diamonds and the rubies so we can get triple shot espressos and spicy eels for when the desert opens up for us. The next day started with the collection of iron ores and gold bars. We went up to the lake, we got lucky with some bubbles here, so we're going to fish here until the bubbles disappear. Even though we weren't getting max quality fish, it didn't matter, because we were just getting so much fish, we would fish off the bubbles no problem. Once we got fishing level 10, it was straight down into the mines. I picked up another book of power called the Monster Compendium. It has a small chance monsters will drop double the loot when they are defeated. It's a nice little money maker, but it can also come in very handy when monsters drop loot that we're going to use, such as bombs or prismatic shards, things like that. It's so nice when it activates that way. So we're now on floor 91. We're going to progress down to floor 110 to get the space boots. Then we're going to stop. We're not going to go further because we don't want to get the skull key. We want to go into the desert festival with the enemies weakened. If we get the skull key, the enemies become stronger, not just in the regular mines, but also in the skull caverns. And I have no problem going into the skull caverns with an obsidian edge, laying waste to the enemies within. When I got down to floor 96, we were rewarded with another diamond. This was absolutely amazing. That was going to be 150 additional mining XP. Our combat was now on 4, our mining was on 5. So before we get to the desert event, I just wanted one more skill in combat and one more skill in mining, and I'd be very happy then with how my character was set up to tackle the challenges that the Skull Cavern was going to yield. And it was going to yield a lot of challenges, especially when we start activating those calico statues for the buffs and the debuffs. The next floor was going to be the spiral floor. You always get this spiral on floor 99, it's an absolute fact. But sometimes it's worth going down to the very bottom and breaking open all the crates, because you never know what you might get. And there's some very nice weapons you can get in those crates before you get to the Skull Caverns, such as the Slammer, the Falchion. You can also get the Tempered Broadsword along with some other bits and bobs as well. After we got the Star Drop, it was basically just getting down to floor 110 now as quickly as possible. But we weren't finished with the mines just yet. We still needed to obtain one more skill up in mining and combat. So even if we got to 110, we'd come back down here again and we'd farm the enemies within. Now, floor 107 here was an infested room, and there was lots of squid kids, which were really nice to fight. 15 XP, and all they take is one hit to kill. It's probably the nicest enemy you can encounter down here when it comes to XP. The shamans are very nice too, just not in groups, because they'll always run away from you as well. They can be very problematic in groups, especially when they heal other enemies if you don't have the strongest weapon in the world. But what's absolutely devastating about the shamans is the fact that they can dramatically decrease your defense. So if you ever find yourself in the mines and something hits you and you take a huge amount of your health, the same way that you're playing Dark Souls and something hits you and half your health bar is gone, it's probably because a shaman has hit you with a debuff, so you still have to watch out. Despite the fact that we still needed one more skill up in mining and combat, we were going to get it quite soon, because all the things down here reward you with pretty decent XP, and it doesn't get a whole lot better from this, especially with combat when you go from this to Skull Caverns. The only thing the Skull Caverns has going for it is two things, I suppose. Number one, you're more than likely to encounter the big slimes, and if you kill them, small slimes pop out, so you can get lots of combat XP very quickly. Secondly, time goes slower when you enter the Skull Caverns, so it is a good place to go to accumulate XP in general. So today was a great day. We got lots of skill ups, including level 10 fishing. We also got the level 5 mining. We're going to take miner plus 1 ore per vein. This is very important, especially when it comes to making bombs as we go. More so for Skull Caverns than anywhere else. The next day begins with the collection of forageables. We're making our way back up now to the mines. Let's take a quick look at our skills though. We've got combat on 4, fishing on 10, foraging on 4, mining on 5, and farming on 0. Now when it comes to farming, that's going to go from 0 to 10 very quickly, and I'm not going to spoil the technique I'm going to use for farming just yet. Just keep watching and you will see some of the best techniques that you've seen in a long time happen over the next couple of days when it comes to maxing out all the skills in spring. Now the big question is, do we max out all of our skills? I'm not going to tell you just yet, okay? But I can tell you one thing. Things are going to ramp up now very quickly over the next few days, especially when the Desert Festival opens up. So we just got our mining skill of 6 there, which was really nice. Once I achieved that, I left the bottom layers of the mines straight away. I went back to Clint. I got my steel axe. We're not going to upgrade any tools right now simply because we can't afford it. Instead, we're going to take a break from the mines. It's only the 12th. We have 2 more days to get ready for the Skull Caverns. We're going to use this axe and we're going to cut down more trees. We are going to try to get a foraging skill of 5. Because if we get a foraging skill of 5 earlier now rather than later, there's a chance we could pick up 2 forageables instead of 1. That means double the foraging XP. We also need to clear away a lot of the trees here from the farm to make more space. So now I thought to myself it was the perfect time to do that. So we spend a great portion of today just running around the farm. We're targeting the big tree stumps as well because they give more foraging XP. We also go into the secret woods and we're going to get the stumps in here as well. The great thing about getting into the secret woods early is because you can get these stumps every single day, and this becomes absolutely vital when it comes to getting foraging to level 10 by the end of the month. When we're finished with the secret woods, we're going to take a stroll through Cindersap Forest, picking up forageables as we go along. We're now very close to getting a foraging skill to 5, just have to pick up a few more things, and we'll be sorted. Now today we do end up getting a foraging skill of 5. It did take us the bones of the full day, but it was worth it. Because at the end of the day, the challenge isn't to make 1 million gold or 2 million gold. Challenge is to max out all skills, and that is exactly what we're doing. Now I'm selling things that normally I don't sell, and I know I kind of brushed on this before, but reason being, we need to assemble 40,000 gold in the next few days to get into the Desert Festival. Marlin is also a great source of money if you have lots of redundant weapons you're never going to use anymore. Some of the weapons go for 100, some go for 250, some go for even more than that. Level 5 combat, we're going to take Fighter. I now feel much better about going into Skull Caverns because I have the Ruby Ring, which gives me 10%, and Fighter gives me a further 10. That's 20% extra attack. Level 5 Foraging, we would of course take Gatherer, chance to pick up a forageable twice. We made 30,000 gold today. You're probably wondering, where's all the money coming from? Let's break it down. Cave carrots, leeks, common mushrooms, wild horseradishes. They're just the forageables, not a whole lot of money to be made there. But let's look at the fish. We've been saving up fish, you see, and the legend was coming in for 11,250. There's also a lot of largemouth basses there as well, bullheads, carps, chubs. It all accumulates. If we take a look at the mining, lots of gold bars. Gold bars early game are very good. 250 gold, it's nothing to snuff at all. Aquamarines, topazes, things we don't really use anyway. For the other category, it's just bits and pieces, but the solar essences, the void essences, the rare disc, the bat wings, the magma geodes, they all accumulate into a nice healthy figure, bringing us up to 37,306 gold. Now, we need to get this bus unlocked. If we don't get it done today, it is critical that we do it tomorrow on the 14th so we can attend the Desert Festival on the 15th. Today is all about preparation for the Skull Caverns. We're going into the mid-level of the mines. We want to get coal and we want to get iron ores to make bombs. If we get attacked by bats, there's a chance they drop bombs when we kill them. That's a bonus. That's all we want today. If we get a skill up in mining or combat, that's great. But the big skill ups are going to come from farming the Skull Caverns. So it doesn't really matter if we don't get any skill ups today. What's critical today is that we get an absolute ton of iron. Now, believe it or not, I reset this day just once because I wasn't happy with the amount of iron I got in the previous attempt. I only came out with about, I think it was 55 or 60 pieces. I just wasn't getting a whole lot of iron. But it's also worth noting too that today was a bad luck day, so I was fighting against luck as well. I also skipped out on a couple of coal satchels and coal carts as well because I got staircases, much earlier than I anticipated. So it was nice to run into those. I picked up a combat quarterly, 250 XP to my combat skill. That was actually a great surprise. Because it was a bad luck day, there was still rewards to be had. There was still a silver lining. There was lots of enemies. And there was lots of dust sprites. I was actually getting huge amounts of coal. And all that coal will be needed to craft bombs. So to make the regular bombs that we want to make, we need iron ores and coal. I'm at 7,500 gold today, primarily from selling stuff in the mines. Aquamarines, refined quartz, amethyst, jades, gold bars again, 9 gold bars there came to 2,250 gold. That was nice. I got lots of aquamarines because we were farming the mid-levels of the mines for the day. There's a bait and bobber in there too for 500 gold. We don't need it because we have fishing maxed out. There's also other bits and pieces as well. We're now on the 14th. The day begins with the creation of bombs. And look how many bombs we made. We've well over 60 bombs there. I'm very happy with that now for Skull Caverns. We're now going to collect our mushrooms so we get more foraging XP for those. Once we're done with the mushrooms, we're going to go visit Morris and we're going to pay Morris 40,000 gold to unlock the bus. We're now going to spend the rest of the day using our lovely tools. We are going to try to level up foraging yet again. Reason being, foraging, in my opinion, is by far the hardest profession to level up. The amount of trees you need to cut down and things you need to pick up, things you need to hold to the ground is absolutely insane to get foraging to level 10. So the earlier you start to put some serious grind into foraging, the easier it gets to max out later on in the challenge. So most of our money, if not all of our money, went to purchasing salads off Gus. Salads will be our primary source of healing. Now I do have a couple of chubs stacked away just in case, because we are going to be doing Skull Caverns literally back to back 3 days in a row while the event is open. So we need to make sure we have enough resources that will last for the 3 days. That's why we spent a whole day going through the mines to get all those bombs. So once we are finished with getting rid of most of the debris on our farm, Mars is fixing up the bus. We also got level 6 foraging, which was great, but what we really want, and we want it much sooner rather than later, is level 7 foraging so we can make tree fertilizers, because I can tell you right now, there isn't enough trees in this game to max out foraging. We will have to grow a lot more trees. Because the event is active, we don't need to wait for 10 o'clock for Pam to get to the bus. We can go straight up to the bus once the day begins. We are going to talk to this chef and we are going to make ourselves, I think it's called the rumpled fruit skin. And this is going to give us a speed buff as well as a luck buff. And the buff does last quite some time, but it would eventually run out. What I didn't know is that when the buff runs out, you can go back to the chef and he can make you the buff fruit again. But you do have to leave the Skull Caverns to get, so you would lose your progress. But the quest will take deep dive, make it past floor 30. Now, to be brutally honest with you, okay, 4 resets were put into today because I was not happy with the progress I was making. The first attempt, I think I made it past like floor 40 or 50. It didn't have a whole lot of, I just didn't have a whole lot of anything. I was just getting bad luck. Lots of enemies, wasn't really getting staircases, wasn't really getting holes. This attempt was an absolute godsend. The gods of RNG just said, you know what, he's going to keep resetting days till he gets good runs. Let's give him a good run. I also picked up the Slammer. I was very happy with this. It also came with Slime Slayer. Special enchant. You just do extra damage against slimes, and there's lots of slime enemies in the Skull Caverns. I picked up 15 charity bombs, got to floor 27. I was very happy with that. More bombs I'm getting out, the better. I also got quite fortunate with the holes as well, and some of those holes ran pretty deep. I managed to get another skill up in combat. My combat was now level 6, so I was doing pretty well. So there's a couple of reasons why we come into the Skull Caverns during the Desert Festival, and that is the collection of calico eggs. Now, I have done so many trials. I tried to max out foraging in spring. I can tell you right now, without the calico eggs, there's absolutely no way you're going to max out foraging unless you sacrifice all the other professions. The calico statues are very important. Every time we click on one, they will give us a +1 rating to our overall egg rating that we get today. The higher the rating, the more calico eggs we're going to get from Gil. The reason we want to get calico eggs is because we can trade those in for skill books that will level up foraging specifically. And I mean, I think that's the reason why Concerned Ape done it this way, because he knows how hard it is to skill up foraging. So this is the tactic. Every time we get down 5 floors, our rating will increase by 1. Every time we click on a statue, our rating will increase by 1. Now the statues are double-edged swords. They can give you speed buffs, monsters can hit you for less, they can give you full refreshes, fully restoring your HP, they can even give you calico eggs, but they can also, I mean, really ruin your day. They can give you nasty debuffs, and that's what starts to happen with us right now. We're getting nasty debuffs, we're getting more bats, skeletons come after us. Skeletons are horrible, because the skeletons aren't the regular skeletons you fight in the regular mines. These skeletons are much, much tougher. They may look the same, but they've got a lot more HP, they hit for much harder, and unfortunately, they don't give you any additional XP when you beat them. Take the skeleton here, for example. He took, I don't know, like 10 or 15 swings. When he was defeated, he just gave me a measly 8 XP. He should be giving me at least 25 for the amount of effort he took to bring down. But alas, it is what it is. Because these statues were cursing me more than blessing me, there was just more of everything. There was more bats, there was more serpents that were hitting me for extra damage. Getting the full refreshes was really handy because it was preventing me from using up all of my valuable healing items, so those full refreshes were really good. The problem here was that I had the Slammer. The weapon is great, the ground pound is great, but you use the ground pound, you are wide open, because I was constantly getting swarmed by enemies, and every few seconds I had to take out my salads and I had to eat them. There was skeletons freezing me in place, there was Iridium bats coming at me left, right and centre because of all the debuffs I had accumulated. But if I wanted to get huge amounts of foraging skill books, I needed higher egg ratings, so I had to persevere, and that's what we were doing here. I didn't even care too much about the Iridium ores. All I wanted were the Calico ores, and that's another reason why you come in here during Desert Festival, because you get 50 mining XP for detonating or breaking open a Calico vein, the exact same as breaking open an Iridium vein. So we got an egg rating of 38, and I think that's the second best result you can get from Gil there, so he's going to reward us with 200 Calico eggs. I think if we got the egg rating over 50, correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, he would have given us 500 Calico eggs, along with the Magic Rock Candy. Now, I was considering resetting the day until I got that, but I judged that I wouldn't need that to max out foraging. And could you imagine how many resets it would take to get the luck to actually get an egg rating of 50 the very first time you come here to the desert and do a Skull Cavern run? Especially with just, you know, mid-tier skills, mid-tier weapons. You know, it wasn't really going to work out in our favour at all, to be honest. By the end of today, we got an absolute ton of skill ups. Today was one of the greatest days when it came to skill ups that we've had so far. We got mining all the way up to 9, we got combat all the way up to 7, we got foraging right up to 7 as well. We can now make 3 fertilizers. It was just a real good day, and we had 2 more days of this. I also made 8,000 gold here as well. Now, a lot of this came from bits and bobs. Look at the amount of void essences and solar essences I got from fighting enemies. I also got 500 gold to pop those energy tonics that the Iridium bats were dropping. I'm also now selling Iridium bars, and they're selling for 1,000 gold a piece. That's going to come in very handy later when we decide to open up with the development projects. We're going to get the same buff food the next day, take on another quest. We're going to take Treasure Hunt. collect 15 pieces of iridium ores. That'll be easy enough to do. Now, we still had a lot of bombs today, but we had to be very careful, and the real challenge will hit the next day when we start running real low on bombs. Now, we were getting nice things in the chests. We was getting mega bombs, cherry bombs, regular bombs. All these things were really helping with progression. I got a nasty debuff there now. You lose more eggs if you pass out. But to be honest, that wasn't really going to affect me because I probably would have reset the day if I passed out. Now, for the record, I don't pass out, but I do come close a few times because, again, we're going to accumulate so many debuffs. We're going to get swarmed with enemies, and we just have this slammer after all, you know. But if I do get a better weapon or even a faster weapon like a sword, we will be swapping out that slammer straight away. Now, these treasure floor rooms sometimes can be really beneficial. There's always a very good chance you might get a hole in a treasure floor room, much more often than trying to get a hole in a regular room, just because the rooms are way more luckier than that. So it's always nice to ascend down a couple of more levels. We are getting huge amounts of XP today, and it was going very well until that debuff unlocked where skeletons are now after me. That means the regular melee skeletons, the spellcasters, the floaty skulls, they're all going to be spawning in to ruin the fun. I absolutely hate taking on the skelly mobs. You know what, I probably wouldn't mind that much fighting them if they gave decent XP, but they just didn't. When I got that debuff there to say food is now half as effective, that was the nail in the coffin. Because we had no salads, and I was using chubs. And chubs, even with 100% effectiveness, don't give a whole lot of health, so I had to try real hard not to take hits off enemies. I mean real hard, and those floaty skulls were not making my life easy at all. But you know what they say, a high risk, high reward. We also had the debuff to turn bugs into assassin bugs. It just means to go faster. I think they hit a little bit harder, but there's a silver lining. When bugs turn into assassin bugs, you can actually kill them. They actually take damage, which was great. The shrines that gave no effect, that was actually a blessing. Better to get no effect rather than get a debuff, and we were still getting much higher egg ratings. So look at all the skill ups we were getting today. I was getting speed boosts as well. I actually thought it was hilarious when I got the auto petter inside the treasure room. With an egg rating of 41, we still just get the 200 calico eggs. So I purchased, again, lots of woodcutter weeklies. Couldn't activate them because I needed to get to the saloon before 12 to get salads off Gus, because I didn't have any healables for the next day. That's why we had to leave a little bit early. So we just got level 10 mining. We'll take blacksmith. Metal bars were 50% more. This means now that all the iridium bars will sell for 1500 gold a pop instead of 1000. So a big increase there when it comes to the money we can make from mining. Now we just got 1000 for those bars because we sold those bars before we got the mining perk. But that doesn't really matter. This isn't really a money challenge anyway. So it's now the final day of the desert festival. This is the last attempt. We managed to get the steel falchion as well, thank God. Now, I'm not trying to downplay the slammer. It's a magnificent weapon, but when you get swarmed, I mean swarmed Diablo style, with tons of enemies, waves of enemies coming at you, it's much better to have a fast weapon like this that can swing in quick arcs to keep the enemies away, rather than have a slow weapon. So, the weapons are good in certain scenarios. When it comes to the level of combat we're going through right now, the falchion here is going to be a huge boon, and we end up getting tons of combat XP today because I can engage monsters way faster. I'm not trying to avoid them, not trying to run around them. Instead, I just run straight through them. I didn't really care what kind of debuffs I got from those statues. All I wanted today was as many calico eggs as possible. Now, in all fairness, the statues today were very nice to me. They gave me lots of calico eggs. Some gave me 10, some gave me 25, some gave me 50. I believe you can actually get a statue to give you 100 eggs, but it's very, very rare. I'd have to double check the wiki though. I don't think I ever got 100 calico eggs off a statue, but I could be wrong. It is quite rare though. Now, despite the fact that we do want to get a lot of calico eggs, we also need to look at how much time we have left in spring. We're now on the 17th, and once it gets to the 28th, the challenge is finished. We had our combat skill on 8. We had a little bit of a ways to go to get that to 10, so I did spend a little bit more time fighting today rather than trying to get a higher egg rating, and the reason for this is because we need to make sure we max out all of our skills. That's the challenge. And I was fairly confident with the amount of XP I'd put in the Foraging now that I'd be able to max it out before the 28. So we got 2 more debuffs, which is why we see so many ghosts and stuff. The first debuff was to spawn in more ghosts. The second debuff was to spawn in more monsters. and that was another debuff to spawn in even more monsters. I just want to point out as well, and it's not really relevant to this challenge, but if you take a look at all these helical shrines, and if you take a look at all the debuffs they can spawn in more bats, more ghosts, more monsters, monsters do more damage. It actually reminds me of playing Diablo, you know, where there's a high risk, high reward, especially when you're going through the rifts and things like that. Concerned Ape did mention before that he loves Diablo games, and that when he was making Haunted Chocolatier, he still is making it, that you might see dungeons like this in Haunted Chocolatier where you just have a lot more enemies in general. So I think the reason why he put in all these statues is because he just wanted to trial the combat for future patches, and this is, I think, a step in the right direction, because when you are swarmed with monsters like this and you have a good weapon, it is a lot of fun. So back to the challenge, we get an egg rating of 40. We're now going to talk to Gil. As per usual, he will give us 200 calico eggs, and I had 655 eggs, so I spoke to the scholar just to get an extra 50 by answering all his questions correctly. That will bring me just over 700. That means I can get 7 woodcutters weeklies. That's going to be 250 XP for each woodcutter's book. After activating all of these woodcutter weeklies, my foraging skill ascended up to the level of 8. My adrenaline after this was very high, because I knew after activating these books I now had a real chance to max out all of my skills in spring. I had a plan, it was working, and even though I had to reset days sometimes, I was still getting progress done. My combat was 9, my foraging was 8, my mining was 10, my fishing was 10, my farming was still 0, but I had plans for the farming. I'm at 37,000 gold, things were looking really good for me. It was the 17th of spring, now into the 18th, I still had a lot of time. Now comes the big challenge, and this was very hard to do. So I had to come up with a way to hoe up the ground to allow for maybe 2,000 parsnip seeds. And the reason why we're getting 2,000 parsnip seeds is that's how much you need. I think it's maybe 16 or 1700 parsnips, but I got 2,000 just to make sure, to get from farming level 0 to farming level 10. Now, it wasn't possible to take the hoe out and hoe up this many slots. I was considering doing it bit by bit by bit, but I decided to just do the whole thing in one go, and instead spend the rest of the time on leveling up the skills. So this whole day is spent hoeing up the farm, and that's why it was so important to get rid of all that debris. So we're going to go to Pierre, we're going to get 2,000 parsnip seeds. Now you're probably asking yourself the question here, how on earth are you going to water these? Well, I was really hoping to get rain totems inside the Skull Caverns, because I was going to be going to the Skull Caverns, 3 days in a row. Surely I'd be able to pick up 1 or 2 rain totems, right? But it turns out I didn't pick up any rain totems. But that still didn't stop me from continuing on with the challenge. So we're going to go to Morris and we're going to unlock the bridge. This will give us access to the quarry, and that's where the tree farm is going to go to ensure we have enough trees to max out foraging. But back to the parsnips. It's going to take us the whole day to plant these. We're not going to water them. We're going to leave them alone. And we are going to pray to God that we get 4 rainy days before the season comes to an end. So when it comes to maxing out all skills, I will be honest with you, if it does work out in our favour, it was a lot of luck as well as skill, as well as planning. A lot of luck was involved. The big question is, could you max out all skills without relying on rainy days? I do not know the answer to that. I'm not sure if it's possible. I think you need rainy days, especially if you're maxing out farming. I mean, to get to level 10 farming, you need so much farming XP. And how'd you get all that XP? Well, by pulling up crops, of course, Now I made 13,500 gold. I didn't show a whole lot of footage from that day, but to be fair, look, we just bombed the ground open, filled in the holes with cherry bombs and a regular hoe. The next day, this is what it looks like. The day after is going to be a rainy day, thank God, but that's one. It's now the 19th. What are the odds we're going to get 3 more rainy days? We're just going to have to keep playing and fight, and we're going to have to find out. If we don't end up maxing out farming, I can at least say that this method to potentially max out all skills could be a viable method. Depending on how lucky you get with rainy days and how lucky you get with the Skull Cavern treasure rooms when it comes to getting those rain totems. Now, to make time a little bit more efficient for us, we're going to unlock the mine carts. I could have got that after the bus, but I felt that I needed to get into the quarry so I can make some progress with foraging as well. We're going to visit the desert today, not to go to Skull Caverns, just to get more foraging XP. Despite the fact that foraging is quite high, it's still going to be a serious grind to get it from level 8 all the way to level 10. We're also going to trade in our prismatic shard for the galaxy sword, and this is going to be the best weapon we're going to get our hands on in this challenge. The galaxy sword is going to make life a lot easier for us to get our combat skill up to 10. It's just all about efficiency and being proficient with all of the tools that we have. We're now making our way down to the bottom levels of the mines here. Reason being, we want to get the skull key, we want to be able to go into skull caverns anytime that we wish. And the reason why we want to get back into skull caverns is to level up our combat skill. I have tried it, and I have to say the skull caverns is by far the best place to level up combat for 2 reasons. Number 1, time goes slower, and number 2, those big purple slimes, they give so much XP, especially when the little small slimes burst out of them. Now Clint has our axe, that's been upgraded at the moment. In the meantime, we're going to go to the quarry, we're going to get rid of all of the ores in the quarry. We're going to run down to the beach when we're finished, and we're going to pick up even more forageables. All of these 7 XPs, 14 XPs, they're all going to add up, they're all going to accumulate. So if we see a forageable or a hoeing spot, we're going to take it straight away. We made over 20,000 gold today, primarily from selling iridium bars. There's a prismatic shard thrown in there as well, and there's a few other bits and bobs. The next day we're going to go to the quarry, and look what happened. It's raining today, but look what happened. The next day is also a rainy day. Can you actually believe that? 2 rainy days in a row. When that happened, I almost lost my life, because I knew I just needed one more rainy day before the 28th for those parsnips to grow. And if those parsnips can grow, and if I manage to max out foraging and combat within the next few days, that was the challenge done. But we weren't there just yet. We had to focus, we had to buckle down, and we had to grind it out. So we're going to go to the desert, we're getting triple shot espressos for speed buffs, we're getting spicy eels. We want our character to be as quick as possible. We're going to get warp totems to the desert, so we can walk to the desert anytime we wish. And for the rest of the geodes, because we had so many from killing so many ghosts and detonating so many ores, we're just going to get artifact troves. There's no reason for the troves. It is literally just for the giggles to break open. Sometimes you can get treasure chests inside those artifact troves. They sell for 5,000 gold a pop. I'm just trying it out. I want to see for future challenges, if I saved up all my Omni geodes and got hundreds upon hundreds of artifact troves, you know, how profitable would it actually be? You know, is it a viable way to make money? If we got the Book of Power that triples the price of all artifacts much earlier rather than later, how profitable would selling artifacts be? So again, it's just trialing stuff out for future challenges, since we had the resources to do so. So we're in Skull Caverns today with one purpose in mind, and that is wiping out enemies. If we come across treasure rooms, great. There's still a chance I can get a rain totem today, so there's still multiple reasons to come down here. Now, I was considering resetting this day over and over and over again until I got a rain totem. I said no. If I don't get another rainy day, then we don't get it. Simple as. The next day was the 22nd, it was not going to be a rainy day. So fingers crossed the day after might be a rainy day. So we're back down into Skull Caverns, and we're wiping out enemies. Our combat skill is now 9, and it's getting close to 10. Just have to keep up the grind. The reason why we're fighting so many enemies now is because Clint has our axe, so we can't cut down trees. So my goal was to max out combat before we get our hands on that iridium axe. So I really wanted to max out combat today. And what I was doing was, I was basically leaving Skull Caverns, coming back in again, fighting enemies. If I got a staircase or a shaft, fair enough, we went down. If I get into a room with no enemies, I would leave straight away and I would go back into the first floor, and it was a rinse and repeat, because I didn't care about making it down deep. I just wanted to max out the combat, and that was it. Eventually, we do achieve it. It was just before 9 o'clock PM, it was the 21st of spring, we maxed out combat. Once combat was maxed out, let's just take a look at the skills here. Combat 10, fishing 10, foraging 8, mining 10, farming 0. And it was the 21st. So we had the good bones of a week left now to get the rest of the professions done. We used our hoe to greatest effects to get more foraging XP. Level 10 combat will get brute, do 50% more damage. We made a bit of money today as well from slaying enemies, along with selling some bars and whatnot. 28,000 gold. Again, the bulk of that is coming from the iridium bars. We actually got 10,000 gold from Mr. Key for making it past floor 30 in the Skull Caverns. You will not get that if you make it past floor 30 during the Skull Caverns, Calico event. You only get it when you get the Skull Key and you do Skull Caverns the proper way. Marcelo ascended up onto the valley today. I was hoping he'd have a woodcutter weekly, but he didn't. He did have the Way of the Wind Part 1, which I could afford, so I bought that. That will permanently increase the movement speed of my character. Movement speed is very important, because the sooner we can get from A to B, the sooner we can get some experience. Now, I went to the quarry today. The trees weren't fully grown up yet, but they were getting there. I think they're on stage 3 out of 5. So maybe 1 or 2 more days and we would have a huge amount of trees we get to cut down. In the meantime, we were going to eradicate every single tree in Stardew Valley. No tree was safe from the wrath of our Iridium Axe. Not a tree out in the desert, not a tree in the secret woods, not a tree in Cindersap Forest, not a tree anywhere. Because we had the Iridium Axe, it just took 3 swings and the tree was down. If we had the Gold Axe, it would have taken a lot more swings. There's a big difference between cutting down trees with the Gold Axe and cutting down trees with the Iridium Axe. Now this is all you're going to see for the next few days. We're just cutting down trees, and that's basically it. Even those little logs on the ground that give a foraging XP of 1, we're just cutting them down. There was a lot of weeds over on the left hand side of the farm, lots of fibre to be had here, so we will make more tree fertilizers. I am going to make another tree farm just in case the quarry doesn't yield enough trees to get our foraging skill to 10. So it was basically just, a backup plan just in case. We had time to make another tree farm and it would be fully grown by the end of the season. That's how powerful tree fertilizer actually is. And all we need to make tree fertilizer is stone and fibre, and you get lots of that, especially on the standard farm. And this is why I chose a standard farm, because I knew I'd have the space and I'd have the resources to get a lot of things I wanted to do done. So we're just in Cindersap Forest now at the moment. We're picking up forageables, cutting down trees as per usual. Those spring onions will absolutely be collected. As I was collecting all of these things, I thought to myself, there must be some other way to get foraging XP. There actually was. Panning, believe it or not, gives you foraging XP. I think it does anyway. So unlocking panning is something we eventually do. Even though it doesn't give a whole lot, you know what, it's better than nothing, especially when there's literally no tree left in the valley. You'll honestly take anything to further increase your foraging skill. So this is the second tree farm we're going to make, just beside the broken down greenhouse. Now look, it's not the biggest tree farm around, but it should be enough to get foraging up to 10 or to get it very close. Going into the secret woods every single day really helped, because each of these lovely stumps was giving me a 25 foraging XP, and there's a good few stumps you can get in there every single day. So it was basically just run around the valley, check for trees, go to the secret woods, get the stumps, go to the desert, check for foraging spots, go to the beach, check for forageables and foraging spots. And that's all I was doing for the next couple of days. And that's all I needed to do to finally complete this challenge. I skipped some trees up here outside the bus stop area. I always seem to just walk past this area and not notice anything inside. It's something I really needed to focus down on. I went back to the quarry to check the growth on the trees. They had gotten a little bit bigger, so they're now on stage 4 out of 5. Picked up a trilobite there, that's going to be sold of course. And there was a couple of trees up here too where Marcelo lands his big balloon. So we're going to cut down all of these trees as well. And that got me thinking, what about the big tree stump blocking the alleyway Buffet Book of Power? That was also up for grabs. So I cut that away, got through the big stone, went up, opened up the golden trash can, got the alleyway buffet. Didn't really need it, but while I was in the area, it was better to pick it up than leave it hanging around. There was also another tree in that area too I could cut down. Didn't know you could cut down that tree before. Pulled up an ancient doll, went down to the beach, picked up some stuff here, got myself a couple of corals. The sea urchin finally decided to show up, but unfortunately we had fishing maxed out. That sea urchin is going to get sold. We now went back to Cindersap Forest. A couple of trees survived the original culling that resided over in the Wizard's Tower. So we got rid of those, went into the mines, found the mushroom floor on floor 84. It's always going to be between, I believe, floor 80 and 120. So every single day now, we're going to go into the mines. We're going to start on floor 80, then we're going to go floor 80, 81, 85, 86, 90, 91, so on and so forth. If we don't find the mushroom floor, we'll go back to 80 and we'll try to find it the long way. Now, we do end up finding the mushrooms every single day, which is great because we had real nice tools. I can make bombs here and there. I was able to get down pretty quickly. And there you go, folks. The next day, the 25th, is going to be a rainy day. But look at the parsnips. There's 2 days left on them. I thought I just needed one more rainy day at the time. I actually needed 2 more. I was really kicking myself. I got excited over nothing. What are the odds in the next few days I was going to get a rainy day? So this challenge was just so tight. You know, there was only a few days left in spring. I still had a long ways to go with foraging, despite the fact that the bar looked fairly full down at the bottom left there because we're using the UI Info Suite mod. I needed 5,000 foraging XP to go from level 9 to 10. 5,000. We get 7 for picking up a forage with 14 if it's a double pickup, 25 from the tree stumps, 14 for a tree and a few more for the stump. I then thought to myself, are the tree farms I set up enough to max this out? Have I done something wrong? Then I started doubting myself, you know, and I do this so much towards the end of challenges if I feel like something's going to get close. So the first thing I did anyway was go to the quarry. It was raining today, fine, but I still needed one more rainy day. I cut down all these trees, hoping that it would be enough to max out foraging. And as I was cutting down these trees, I realised that it wasn't going to be enough. I still needed a lot of foraging XP. And even though the bar looked like it was almost full there, I'm telling you right now it wasn't. I needed the bones of another, we'll say, 1,000 foraging XP. So I went back into the mines, picked up all these mushrooms, and I kept telling myself, should I have planted spring wild seeds on the first or second or third day and just, you know, kept planting them over and over again and using up extra time to water them all up and pray for rainy days? And all these things were running through my mind. Was I going to complete this challenge? Was it going to be another, you know, good attempt but not magnificent attempt? And I really didn't want to release another video of me almost maxing out all my skills like the last time. So we're going to go to Morris. Time for another development project. We're going to take panning, 20,000 gold. Panning will give me more foraging XP. So I was basically just taking anything now that was going to give me any sort of an edge, whether it be a big edge or a small edge. We were going to absolutely take it. The next day was an amazing day. You know why? Because the next day, the 27th, was going to be a rainy day. Yes, that's right. We were going to max out our farming skill. Not tomorrow, but the day after. And I know what people are going to say in the comments. So convenient, you got those rainy days. But look, this is Stardew Valley. This is why the game is so great. You can start up a file on this game anytime you want, and God only knows what your first month is going to bring you. And I managed to get RNG on my side. Now the thing about rainy days is they're all set in stone. You cannot reset days until the next day becomes a rainy day. If the next day isn't a rainy day, there is nothing you can do about it unless you install some sort of a mod and you force the game to make the next day a rainy day. And there we have it. We finally achieved the foraging skill of 10. We have done it. We have absolutely done it. We have achieved maximum skills in spring. Farming isn't there just yet, but by God, we are going to get that to level 10 tomorrow. I was so happy. Just so you know, when I achieved this feat, it was 4 o'clock in the morning. I couldn't sleep because my adrenaline was just... After I got those foraging skill books from the Calico event, I could not sleep. I was just buzzing on my chair playing this game. I was so excited because I knew I had a really good chance to max out all skills, and this is something I've been trying to do for the past, I'd say, 6 to 8 months. I've been talking to people on Discord, people have been emailing me their tips, so many people from the community have reached out to me to give me tips on how I can achieve maximum skills. And I just want to give a huge shout out to my friend C2, who sent me a message on Discord and told me about this tactic to max out farming, to just buy a huge amount of parsnips, plant them, and pray for rainy days. Don't water them every morning, just buy them, poke the ground, plant them, and see what happens. And that's why I was able to get this done. I just want to give a huge shout as well to all the people that over the months and over the years have been putting so many great tips into the comments, because that's how I learned to get better at this game. And believe it or not, this challenge started all the way back, I think it was about a year ago, when someone put into the comments to say that if you take a fishing buff food, you can attempt to catch the legend with a modified level of 10. You don't need a natural level of 10. That's where this whole thing kicked off from. And look at that. All my skills are 10. I can now achieve mastery. We're not even in summer. Now this leads me on to the next challenge, okay? I had a lot of downtime just trying to get foraging to level 10. I wonder if I focused on tree farms a lot earlier. Could I have had an extra few days where I could have went to Skull Caverns and, you know, attained mastery levels? You know, what if I planted the parsnips earlier and I was able to get farming level 10 much earlier? So I'm now wondering, is it possible to get mastery levels before summer? And that's something I'm going to think about over the next couple of weeks. But for now, here you go, folks. We just broke open some artifact troves. We're going to get 3 ancient fruits. We also picked up the treasure appraisal guide. That's going to triple the value of all artifacts. So why are we still playing on this file? But it's quite simple. I want you to let me know, shall we continue this file and turn it into a big min-max challenge to see what we can get out of the first year by maximizing every single day. So it would basically turn into a money challenge. Because I had stayed well over 1,000 enemies, I also picked up the mapping cave systems inside Marlin's place as well. Thank you very much, Marlin. Now, let's take a look at the farming skills. Level 1 farming, level 2 farming, level 3 farming. You can all count with me. Level 4 farming, level 5 farming. We're going to take tiller, crops worth 10% more. Level 6 farming, quality sprinklers. 7, 8 kegs, 9 iridium sprinklers, and 10. We're going to take agriculturist, all crops grow 10% faster, just in case we decide to go the starfruit route if we're going to continue this challenge. We made 100,000 gold today, primarily from selling parsnips. Have you ever sold so many parsnips in your life? But look at the artifacts. Look what they're worth now that we have the appraisal guide. They're worth so much. I also sold the rest of my salads, the spicy eels. I sold wood because I could. It was now the first day of summer. We've got 128,000 gold to play around with. We made a total of 380,000 gold. I wonder, is it still possible to make 1 million gold in spring? That would actually be harder, I think, to do than to max out all skills. Let's go to Sandy and buy some starfruit seeds, shall we? How many starfruit seeds can we buy with all the money we have collected? Let's see. Well over 100 anyway. So we're going to purchase a total of over 300 starfruit seeds. 320. So how about we plant those, put them into some kegs, get artisans, sell some starfruit wine, and see what we can do for the first year on this beautiful file. Thanks everyone for watching this challenge. I really appreciate you. Huge shout out to my channel members. I hope you all have a great week, and I will see you in the next Stardew Valley challenge.